everyone, and welcome back to the Rom English Podcast. I'm Jennifer, and I am so happy you are joining us today. Right now, our studio feels absolutely magical. It is filled with the scent of fresh pine branches and the soft golden glow of candles. We are standing on the doorstep of the biggest and most beautiful festive season of the year.
Hi, Jennifer, and hello to all our listeners out there. I have to be honest with you. As soon as I walked into the building today, I felt a very special wave of emotion. There is something about Christmas that makes everyone feel more nostalgic, isn't there? We start thinking about our childhood and the stories we were told.
You are right, Michael. But today we are going to look at Christmas differently. Usually we talk about the bright LED lights on the streets or the busy shopping malls. But today we are going to step into a different space, a place where old fairy tales meet grand history.
I'm really excited about this. You know, we often take Christmas for granted. We decorate the tree, we buy gifts, and we wait for Santa Claus because that is just what people do. But if we look at it through the lens of heritage, every single one of those actions is actually a secret code from the past.
Exactly. And today we are very lucky to use research from English Heritage. For those who don't know, English Heritage is a leading organization in the UK that looks after over 400 historic sites, from ancient stones to grand castles. They help us decode the true soul behind the character everyone loves, Father Christmas.
That is a great point. Father Christmas is not just an old man in a bright red suit with a giant bag of toys like we see on modern Christmas cards. If we look at history, the story is much richer, more complex, and even a little bit gritty. It is a long journey that starts at the ancient stones of Stonehenge and travels all the way to the cold stone halls of Dover Castle.
It's a fascinating journey. Michael, have you ever wondered why an organization like English Heritage, which is famous for fixing old walls and ruined abbeys, cares so much about Christmas?
I have thought about that. I think it's because they see Christmas not just as a holiday on the calendar, but as a living thing. They don't just protect old buildings, they protect our memories and the traditions that stay in our hearts.
Spot on. So in today's episode, we will analyze how these traditions were born. We will talk about everything from handmade Victorian decorations to the spiritual meaning of the green plants we bring into our homes. Let's start our trip back in time.
Jennifer, I was looking at the list of places that English Heritage manages. It is huge. They have places like Kenilworth Castle, Whitby Abbey, and Osborne House. I was wondering, why do they hold Christmas events in these very old, serious places? Does it really change how we see history?
That is a very smart question. You see, Michael, if heritage sites just stand there quietly, they're just cold blocks of stone. But English Heritage uses these places as a time machine. When they celebrate Christmas at Dover Castle, for example, they aren't just putting up decorations to look pretty. They're recreating the atmosphere of a medieval feast.
So it's about more than just looking at a building?
Much more. It is about feeling history. Instead of just reading a dry history book, you can stand in the great hall of a real castle. You can smell the wood burning in the fireplace. You can meet a Father Christmas who is wearing a green velvet robe instead of a red one. It makes history live in your mind.
I love that. It turns a lesson into an experience.
Precisely. And it's great for education. For a child, a date like 1840 might be hard to remember, but if that child goes to Osborne House, which was the holiday home of Queen Victoria, and makes a traditional ornament, they'll never forget it. They learn about culture by doing, not just by listening.
I also noticed they have a members area where people can get more involved. It shows that preserving intangible heritage, like old stories, Christmas carols, or recipes for gingerbread, is just as important as fixing a roof or a wall.
Now, let's talk about the man of the hour, Father Christmas. Michael, if we traveled back 400 years in a time machine, do you think you would recognize him?
Probably not. Nowadays, we think Father Christmas and Santa Claus are the same person, but they have different roots, don't they?
They do. The American Santa Claus comes mostly from St. Nicholas and the Dutch character called Sinterklaas, but the British Father Christmas is much older and comes from English folklore. In the beginning, he didn't even bring gifts to children.
Wait, no gifts? Then what was his job?
He was the personification of good cheer. In the Middle Ages, he was usually pictured as a large man with a big beard, wearing a long robe and a crown made of holly leaves. He didn't come to climb down chimneys. He came to tell the adults to eat, drink, sing, and be kind to the poor. He was the spirit of the party.
But I remember reading that there was a time when Christmas was actually banned in England. That sounds like a nightmare for Father Christmas.
It was a very dark time. In the 16th century, a man named Oliver Cromwell and the Puritans took control. They thought Christmas was a waste of money and too much like a pagan festival, so they banned it. No parties, no special church services, nothing.
So did Father Christmas just disappear?
No, he became a symbol of resistance. People who loved the old traditions started writing stories and drawing pictures of him. They drew him as an old, tired man wandering in the snow, reminding people not to forget the old ways.
Is that where the green robe comes from?
Yes, green represents the life that stays alive in the middle of winter. The red suit only became the standard much later in the 19th century because of American influence and famous books like A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. That's when the spirit of the party merged with the gift giver to become the man we know today.
We have to talk more about the 19th century, the Victorian era. When I look at English Heritage's website, they talk a lot about Victorian Christmas crafts. Why was this time so important?
Because the Victorians changed the feeling of Christmas. Before them, Christmas was mostly a big, loud festival that happened outside in the streets. But with Queen Victoria and her husband, Prince Albert, they moved the celebration inside the home. They made it about family, children, and a cozy atmosphere.
So is that why we have Christmas trees today?
Exactly. Prince Albert brought the tradition of the Christmas tree from Germany. After a picture of the royal family standing around a decorated tree was published in a newspaper, everyone in England wanted one. It became a massive trend.
And they didn't just buy plastic decorations from a shop back then, right?
No, they were very into DIY, do-it-yourself. They spent weeks making things. They used lace, ribbons, dried fruits, and nuts to decorate their trees and homes. This is something English Heritage still celebrates. They hold workshops to teach people how to make these traditional Victorian crafts.
That is so much more meaningful than just buying a box of decorations.
It really is. It teaches us that the best part of Christmas is the time we spend making something for the people we love. It's about the effort, not the price tag.
There's one thing I always see at Christmas but never really understood: the plants. Why do we use holly, ivy, and mistletoe?
The history of these plants is actually older than Christmas itself. Long before people celebrated the birth of Jesus, ancient tribes like the Druids thought these plants were magical. Think about it. In the middle of a freezing winter, when every other tree looks dead, these plants stay bright green.
So they were symbols of life.
Yes, in English folklore, holly, with its sharp leaves and red berries, represents the male spirit and protection. Ivy, which is soft and climbs on things, represents the female spirit and the ability to survive.
So putting them together in the house was like a prayer for a strong, happy family.
Exactly. And then there's mistletoe. It was very special because it doesn't grow in the dirt, it grows high up in the branches of other trees. Ancient people thought it was a gift from the sky. It was a symbol of peace and reconciliation.
Is that why people kiss under it?
Yes, but the original meaning was much more serious. If two enemies met in the forest under some mistletoe, they had to stop fighting and have a truce for the rest of the day. It was a plant that forced people to be kind to each other.
So when we hang a wreath on our door today, we're actually doing something that people have been doing for thousands of years. We're connected to our ancestors.
We've talked about symbols, but let's talk about the actual places. I was shocked to see Stonehenge on the list for Christmas. Stonehenge is a prehistoric site from 5,000 years ago. What does it have to do with Christmas?
This is where history feels like magic. Stonehenge is not a Christian site, but it is deeply connected to the root of the season, the Winter Solstice.
That's the shortest day and longest night of the year, right?
Yes, prehistoric people built Stonehenge to line up perfectly with the sun on that specific day. For them, the solstice was the most important day of the year. It meant the sun was reborn and the days would start getting longer again.
So the celebration of light coming back is the original version of Christmas.
Precisely. Every light we put on our tree today is an echo of those ancient people celebrating the return of the sun. Now, if you go to a place like Dover Castle, you see a different side of history. There, English heritage recreates royal feasts from the Middle Ages. You see the music, the dancing, and the fancy costumes.
It's amazing to see the contrast. On one hand, you have the quiet, ancient stones of Stonehenge. On the other, you have the loud, golden halls of a royal castle. But both are part of our heritage. Michael, there's one final thing I want to talk about. It is the most important part of the whole story. The people. Have you seen how much work the volunteers at English Heritage put into these events?
I have. It makes me realize that heritage is not something that stays frozen in a museum. It only stays alive because of us. It stays alive because a grandfather takes his grandson to a castle to see a play about Father Christmas.
I agree. When a child learns how to make a Victorian toy, they aren't just playing, they are connecting with their great-great-grandparents. English Heritage is very smart because they create a community through their members area. It brings people together to protect the soul of the country.
I also love how they ask for support through Donate Now or Support Us. Sometimes we think the government should pay for everything, but really, protecting a story or a tradition is a personal choice. It is a cycle of sharing, and sharing is what Christmas is all about.
You are so right. Christmas is the season of giving. By giving our time and interest to history, we are giving a gift to the future. We are making sure that our identity and our stories don't disappear. Well, dear listeners, we have traveled a very long way today. We started with ancient people watching the sun at Stonehenge. We saw Father Christmas hiding in a green robe to protect our traditions. And we saw how the Victorians created the cozy family Christmas we love today.
The biggest lesson I learned today is that Christmas wasn't invented in one day. It is like a giant, beautiful blanket made of millions of different threads. There are threads of religion, threads of old folk stories, and threads of family love.
Yes, heritage is not about the past being dead. It is about what we choose to bring with us into the future. Father Christmas might change his clothes, and our trees might have more modern lights, but the spirit of kindness and hope stays the same.
Thank you, Jennifer, for such a deep and interesting talk, and a huge thank you to all our listeners for joining us on this trip through time on the Rom English Podcast. I hope that tonight, when you see a piece of holly or give a gift, you feel the echo of history right there with you.
If you want to learn more, please go to the English Heritage website. You can find so many more stories and see how you can help protect these beautiful places.
We wish you all a festive season full of light, joy, and the warmest echoes of the past. Goodbye for now, and we will see you in the next episode of the Rom English Podcast.
Goodbye, everyone, and a very early Merry Christmas to you all.
Vixen and Blitzen and all his reindeer are pulling on the rein. Bells are ringing, children singing, all is